All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos.
There we go. It is, you know what? Weather here, I don't know, it's like the weather in Oklahoma, right? Wait 5 minutes and it'll change. We've had the 70s recently, we've had the 40s recently, we've had the 20s, we've had the 30s. If you're playing bingo, go for the 50s. Go for the 50s. But it rained this morning, but actually it's kind of pleasant right now, if not a little chilly. But regardless of where we are, it doesn't matter what the weather is. It is Shabbat. And we are going to be joyful. This week was Purim. And so our joy is automatically increased in the month of Adar, as you can see by our sign. And just so you know, Passover is about 4 weeks, 3 weeks and 5 days.
Mhm.
Just so you know, never too soon to start. Never too soon to start cleaning. All right, let's see, Judy, bench lift for us, please. Well, I could have gotten Dennis. See if he knows the blessing.
You want me?
No, we'll take you. We want you.
Thank you. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generation of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad l'pnei shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's continue on page 6. Page 6 with the responsive reading, the bottom paragraphs. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May we welcome your prayers and heard. Thanks to express those features.
May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May the threshold be stumbling block to your straining feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Amen.
All right, let's jump ahead to page 20. Right in the middle of Kabbalat Shabbat, we have Lecha Dodi, song that comes to us from the mystics in Sfat. They're the ones who give us the Kabbalah as we know it. And it was actually, right about this time, well, Israel time, they'd be going out into the field and dressed all in their white, as Shabbat. The color for Shabbat is white. And they would go and they would watch the sunset, and as the sun set, they would start welcoming the Shabbat, putting away the work week, putting away the 6 days that they had been working at their businesses or leading their families. And after the sunset and Kabbalat Shabbat was over, they would start the evening service. But one of the ways they welcomed the Shabbos bride was with Lecha Dodi. Top of page 20. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, Ki mikor ha'bracha, Merosh mikedem nehesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, קומיצי מתוך אפיך, רק להקשבת בימיך בך, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבן אל נפשי גאלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, כי היווה אורי קומי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לא תבושי ולא תקומי, מה תשתוכחי מה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר על תילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, והיו לשמצה שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כי ימסוס חתן על כלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תעריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי, ונהי שמחה ונגילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובשולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Let's turn to page 22. Some verses from Psalm 92, also known as the Psalm for Shabbat. And let's read together the outdented English paragraph. A psalm for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzadikat ha'yifrach, ke'erez balvanon, yishteh shetuli, bebeit Adonai, bechatrot Eloheinu, yafrichu. O Jinu beseva, deshenim vera'ananim, yiyu lehagi, ki yashar Adonai, suri velo avlatapo. Page 24 at the top. We'll welcome the angels who come to spend Shabbat with us. Top of 24, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharim, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have Welcome Shabbat, and Shabbat is with us. We're going to continue with the Arvit service for Shabbat, the evening service, page 146, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai Vorach Le'olam Vahed. Page 147, let's read together in English the second bracha before the first bracha before the Shema. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish. But your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with the abiding word. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. The second blessing before Shema. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amchavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadita. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shochneinu uvkumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam vahed. Ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavat techal tasir mimeni le'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amho Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levacha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol miotecha, v'hayu advarim ha'eleh. Asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha uvlektecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uvkumecha ukshartam le'ot al yedecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Amen.
Page 151, let's read responsively in the English. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp between perfection and evil down.
Before our eyes, there's a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
And we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
Learn God's presence redeems time and event. So to celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Top of 152. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. No rati lo, no seifele. Malchutecha ra'u banecha. Bokeyam lifnei Moshe. Zeli anu v'amru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov. Uga'alom yad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Top of 153, the first two lines, beginning of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. And let's read together in the English. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Top of page 104, Vishamru, verses from the book of Exodus. It's not Shabbos if you don't have Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. We are at the central prayer of the evening service, the Amidah, and we'll chant together 155, 156, and 157. And when we're finished that chanting, we'll go silently 158 through the end on 167. And during that time, you can finish the prayer in the Hebrew or the English translation, or offer up your own personal and meditative prayer at that time. But we're going to begin together on page 155. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufiagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufiagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, U'mevii Goel Imei B'neihem, Leman Shema Yahava, Melech Ozer Yoshia Umagin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Abraham, Yezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Meitim Atarav L'Hoshia, Mashiva Ruach, Mori Hagashem, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim. Sohomech noflim ve'rofem cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha b'gevuros, umidom melach, melech mimit umechayeh, Umatzliach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh ha'mesim. If you're still completing your Amidah, please take your time. We're going to jump ahead to page 160. Page 160, and let's read this paragraph together in English. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. and may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Page 163, a little bit of Thanksgiving. Something to be thankful for every day. It doesn't have to be anything major. It could be anything really that makes you feel good and makes you realize how blessed we are. So let's read responsibly at the top of 163. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
The strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
Nature and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, horse race is the source of being.
All right, and we'll close out the Amidah with a prayer for peace, one of many prayers for peace that we have in our Siddur, but this one in the evening is Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eitu b'chol shah v'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Praise are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Page 253, in the middle, the Mishaberach. And if you have anybody who needs a little bit of extra healing, keep them in your thoughts as we prepare middle of 253 for Mishaberach. Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. All right, page 258 and 259, prayers of our community. And Hoyt, at the top of 258, the prayer for our congregation.
Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction. May we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Mari, prayer for our country, please.
Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness.
Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Hovayich. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Avinu Shabashamayim, Sur Yisrael V'golo. Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Smichat Ulatenu. Again Aleha V'yevrat Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha. Ushlach Uracha V'amitecha, L'rasheha Soreha V'yoetzeha. V'takneim Be'etzah Tova Milfanecha. V'natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'simchat Olam Liyoshveha, V'nomar Amen. Dennis, 259.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel with marks the drawing of hope for all who seek peace. Shelter it beneath the wings of your love and spread it over the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all for reading. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
All right, this week it's Parashat Ki Tisei, and it's also Shabbat Parah. It's one of the 4 special Shabbatot leading up to Passover. It's actually the third one. The first one was Shabbat Shkalim, which reminded you to pay your half shekel dues to the temple so that they could keep running. Then a couple of weeks ago, we had a Parashat Zachor, in which we remembered what Amalek did leading up to Haman. And this week it's Parah. It's reminding us that if we have come into contact with a human corpse, we have to go to the high priest, who would take this special concoction of the ashes of a red heifer mixed with water, and he would sprinkle them on us, and that would make us ritually pure again, and that way we could eat of the Passover sacrifice. And so we have one more special Shabbat coming up, and I'm not going to ruin the surprise. All right, so this week, Ki Tisa begins more with with more mitzvot. We get the first census, right? Everybody over the age of 20 has to pay a half shekel. And this was a way of seeing just how many people were with us at that point in the journey. And plus, it went for the upkeep of the Mishkan, the Mikdash, that was just built. We're commanded to create a copper basin so that the priests can wash before and after the sacrifices, and we're to make oil for consecrating the Mikdash and its furniture. There's a man named Betzalel, and he's a skilled craftsman, and he is put in charge of making the furnishings, including the priestly garments, and Oholiav is his assistant. And if you go to Jerusalem, you will find that there is an art academy, an art school, named after Betzalel. This week we get Fishamru as part of the reading, right? Observing Shabbat, and that is that it celebrates the covenant between God and the children of Israel. It's become an integral part of our liturgy, and it's a reminder that the Shabbat is an oath. It's a sign between us and God. And then the Torah does something that frustrates some readers and it confounds Torah commentators, is there's a time shift. It's kind of like Doctor Who or Back to the Future, right? There's a time shift where the action goes back to when Moshe was standing on Har Sinai receiving the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 utterances, the Shnei Luchot Habrit, the 2 tablets of the covenant. 40 days have passed. He's up there on the mountain with God for 40 days, and the people are worried. And they approach Aharon and they ask him to create a golden calf for them to worship. And in a weird moment, he agrees. He agrees. And at the end, this is the sin that we atone for as a people on Yom Kippur. And the sin of the spies, which is later on in the Torah, that's the sin that we atone for on Tisha B'Av. So the two main major fasts in our tradition are both linked to the behavior of our ancestors. So Moshe doesn't know what's going on down at the foot of the mountain, so God tells him. And God threatens to destroy the people and to start again. God says, I'm done with these people. They're driving me crazy. And I'll just wipe them out, and I'll start over again with you, Moshe. Moshe intercedes and says to God, what are the Egyptians going to say? You took them out of slavery and you couldn't control them, so you destroyed them. It's going to make you look weak. It's going to make you look like you can't lead a bunch of former slaves. So God relents and sends Moshe back down to camp. He sees the idol. He smashes the tablets. He destroys the idol, and then he punishes the people for having an idol. He asks for assurance from God that neither he nor the people will ever be abandoned. And then he asks to see God's face. God says to him, can't see my face and live, and commands him to carve out a new set of tablets and to come back up to the mountain. He commands us to observe the festivals of Shavuot, Pesach, and Shabbat. And another 40 days pass, and then Moshe returns to the base camp, and his face is radiant. This is the thing that causes Michelangelo to give Moshe horns in his famous statue. Right? Moshe has two horns because Michelangelo mistranslated or had a bad translation where the word Karen, which does not mean a horn, it means a rays of light. And Michelangelo's translation had it coming from the word cornu, which means horn. And so bad translation led to Moshe having horns. And so we get 9 new mitzvot this week, 4 positive and 5 negative. And that's our Torah portion in a nutshell. So as a rabbi, as Jews, we know that Israel and its government are often in the news. Right? If an anti-Israel activist on the far left writes something that's, problematic, I don't usually get upset. Somebody on the far right writes something that's anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, I don't really get upset. It's business as usual. We're so used to that. However, we are in a position now with the current government in Israel, the extreme right-wing government of Israel, and that's not my phrase, it's a phrase that the Israelis are using, and they're saying that the government is racist, homophobic, anti-American liberal Judaism, right? And what that means is that there are laws there are laws being put forth that would make it illegal to be a Reform or conservative Jew in Israel. And I was part of an email exchange this week where there was an article by Thomas Friedman in the New York Times about Israel. And, he's basically in his article said, you got to take a side here. And then, of course, people on the email were, I'm not going to take a side. It's none of our business what happens in Israel. And I always find that kind of disingenuous. Because when Israel does something that America really doesn't like, we like to scream about it. American Jews like to complain about it. American Jews like to say, hey, now, let's stop that and think about what you're doing. But in this case, we actually have to speak out. We do have to take a side, unfortunately, because there's talk of changing the law of return. And the law of return is what makes the state of Israel so important to Jews, because Jews, if you are born Jewish, and even if you are a Jew by choice, although it's a little bit more difficult if you're a Jew by choice, you can show up get off an El Al flight and walk to the Israeli embassy or walk to, I don't know, one of the customs agents, I don't know, and declare that you want to make Aliyah. And they open the gates for you, and you can make Aliyah and become an Israeli citizen. So there's talk of changing that to make it more difficult. They want to ban mixed prayer at the Kotel. Now, you know, the Kotel is the Western Wall, and that is always a hot topic because the ultra-Orthodox Jews don't think men and women should pray together. And so when I say liberal Jews, as opposed to the Orthodox Jews, right? Only in America are we called Reform and Conservative. In Israel, outside, the conservative are called Masorti, traditional Jews, and the Reform movement are called liberal Jews. And it's not about politics there, it's simply how we view the tradition. And so they want the people that want to have egalitarian minyanim, where men and women pray together, have made all sorts of, what's the word? Not adjustments, but they've given up a lot of the ground that they usually stand on. And they pray off to the side. They pray not right at the wall where you always see the pictures and there's always a men's section and a women's section, but they pray off by Robinson's Arch, and they just mind their own business. But the ultra-Orthodox can't stop harassing them. And so now there is a ban, a potential ban being written up that will say that there is no egalitarian prayer at the wall, and there will be a fine and prison time for women who are dressed immodestly, according to the Orthodox standard. Now, most of the women here would be considered dressed immodestly by the Orthodox rabbinical standard here today. All right, and it has nothing to do with showing flesh. It has to do with if women are wearing pants, if women are wearing t-shirts, if women, I mean, if their heads are uncovered. I mean, it's ridiculous, but this is what's coming down the pipe. And they're trying to eviscerate the Israeli Supreme Court system. This is the government that was elected. This is Benjamin Netanyahu's government. And a number of commentators have said that this represents the great existential threat to Israel. Not the existential threat to the security because Israel is in a bad neighborhood and is surrounded by much larger countries with beefs against the Israelis, but this is against the soul and the essence, the very idea of the state of Israel being a home for all Jews. In the last few weeks, hundreds of thousands of citizens, including Orthodox Jews, have taken to the streets in protests. Papers and journals are filled with articles, and I want to share one. And the importance of this particular piece is that it's not written by liberal Jews. It's not written by Jews in America. It's written by people who have made Aliyah at different parts of their lives and have become major teachers, authors, and journalists in the state. They are all what we would call centrists. They're not liberal, although one of them, Rabbi Danny Gordis, is often center-right in a lot of his writings. And I know Danny, he was the dean of my rabbinical school for the first 2 years I was there. So he is one of the authors. The other authors are Yossi Klein Halevi, who is a major social commentator and author in Israel. And the final one is Maddie Friedman, who is a journalist. And I've had I studied with Rabbi Gordis, and I know Maddie Friedman from hearing him speak at a number of the synagogues that I have been at. So this is not the left crying out. This is not American Jews making hay out of something that, might not be. These are serious, serious Jews in Israel writing this. And it's an open letter to Israel's friends in North America. And this, I think, was in the, it wasn't the Jerusalem Post. I can't remember where it was. But they say, to Israel's friends in North America, we are taking the unusual step of directly addressing you at a moment of acute crisis in Israel. We write with a sense of anguish and anxiety for the future of our country. All of us moved to Israel from North America and have raised our children here. Between us, our many decades of work as reporters, literary chroniclers, and translators of Israeli reality for audiences abroad. We have explained and defended Israel against a campaign of distortions that seeks to turn the Jewish state into a pariah and will proudly continue to do so. Today, though, protecting Israel also means defending it from a political leadership that is undermining our society's cohesion and its democratic ethos, the foundation of the Israeli success story. The changes afoot will have dire consequences for the solidarity of Israel's society and for its economic miracle, as our leading economists are warning. It will also threaten Israeli-American relations, and it will do grave damage to our relations with you, our sisters and brothers in the diaspora. This crisis is unique and uniquely heartbreaking because it comes from within. None of us is an alarmist, but this is a moment for alarm, and one in which the voices of Israel's friends must be heard. Israel's government is moving to eviscerate the independence of our judiciary and remake the country's democratic identity. The initiative needs to be understood through three lenses: the substance of the proposed changes, the process by which they are being promoted, and the identities of those pushing for the change. In substance, the changes would remove the only effective brake on government power and profoundly weaken the one body capable of protecting citizens from the tyranny of a majority, protection that has never seemed more vital. In a misleading campaign in the American media, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is attempting to present his plan merely as an adjustment that would align Israel more closely with other democracies. No serious legal figure in Israel believes this is true. Even if elements of the proposed changes may seem similar in practices in other democratic countries, as the government maintains, all of those democracies have powerful institutional checks and balances, absent in Israel, that limit unbridled executive or legislative power and protect individual rights. Israel has no formal constitution and no second legislature. It has no federal system or regional elections. The Prime Minister's plan effectively concentrates nearly all the power in the hands of one person, the Prime Minister himself. This is no, quote, judicial reform, unquote, but a dramatic alteration that would bring Israel's governing system closer, not to the US and Canada, but to Hungary and Turkey. As for process, this radical transformation of Israel's governing system is being pursued at breakneck speed without any national discussion, without having presented it to the electorate in any meaningful way before the recent elections, and without regard for criticism now coming from across the political and social spectrum. We agree that a constructive national discussion on legal reform is not only necessary, but overdue. But that is impossible when the government refuses to slow its pace and engage in discussion aimed at genuine rather than cosmetic compromise. As for who's behind this initiative, a prime minister currently on trial for corruption and who has appointed ministers with criminal records is claiming legitimacy to overturn the legal system. Understandably, many of Israel's supporters want to believe that Netanyahu is still a cautious conservative loyal to the country's liberal DNA. In fact, though, he has become a very different kind of leader, one who subverts the national interest to his own. A wise leader encourages unity among his people. Netanyahu is stoking hatred and schism. The North American Jewish community has steadfastly come to the aid of Israel at moments of crisis. Israel belongs first of all to its citizens, as they have the final word. But Israel also matters to the entire Jewish people. When an Israeli government strays beyond what your commitments to liberal democracy can abide, you have both the right and the responsibility to speak up. Israeli leaders need to hear where you stand. North American Jews and their leaders must make it clear to this government that if it continues on the path to transforming Israel into a country of which diaspora Jews can no longer be proud, there will be no business as usual. We and our families, along with many tens of thousands of other Israelis, are in the streets every week demanding that the government end its war against our democratic values and institutions. We need your voice to help us preserve Israel as a state both Jewish and democratic. With blessings from Jerusalem, Maddie Friedman, Daniel Gordis, and Yossi Klein Halevi. This is no joke. This is no joke. Netanyahu is playing with fire. The people are out in the streets. And it's not just the liberals who are out in the streets. Even the conservatives politically are out in the streets because they see what this means for Israel. And as American Jews, who we treasure Israel, we love Israel, we have differing opinions about Israel, but Israel is very close to all of our hearts. And it breaks mine to see what is happening. The law of return, non-egalitarian prayer. I mean, that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. And these three men, they are not lightweights. They are heavyweights in Israel. Their names are known throughout the country. And if we ignore their warning, we do it at Israel's peril. We do have a right to speak out. We do have a right to tell our politicians, to tell the Israeli politicians to pay attention. We have a right to to the Israeli politicians and ask them not to do this. I understand, as the authors said, the Israelis have the final word on everything. They live there, we don't. They put their lives on the line every day, we don't. But they do need our support. They want our support, because what's happening in Israel just doesn't affect Israel. It affects all of us who are not ultra right-wing Israelis or ultra right-wing Israeli Orthodox Jews. And if you want Israel to remain the Israel that we know and love, we need to speak out. We cannot ignore this. We ignore this at our own peril and at Israel's peril. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Striking.
Mari, what time is it?
Kadoosh.
It's time for Kiddush. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's not Shabbos without Kiddush. And if Mari's not here, I often don't remember it. I have us jump into Elena. Although I have to admit, Judy did jump in the other time and say, no, Kiddush. And I was glad.
Got to keep you on track.
Got to keep me on track. I get caught in my head, and that's a dangerous place to be for me. So, all right.
Well said.
Vayi boker yom hashishi, vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam, vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa, vayishbok bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa, vayavarech Elohim et yom hashvi, vayikadesh oto Kivo Shavat Mikol Melachto Asher Bara Elohim La'asot Savri Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Borei Peri Hagafen Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Kiddeshanu Mitzvotav V'Ratzavanu V'Shabbat Kotro B'Ahava U'Ratzon Inchilanu Zikaron L'Maaseh Bereshit Ki Hu Yom Techila L'Mikra'ei Kodesh Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim Ki Banu V'Charta V'otanu Kidashta Mikol Ha'amim V'shabbat Kodshecha V'ahava U'Ratzon Inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Hashabbat.
Amen.
Page 282, we'll begin closing out our service. 282, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shapeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'roye haratzot, velo samanu b'mishpachot ha'adama. Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol amonam. V'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz, Umoshav Yekaro Bashamayim Imaha, Ushlina Kuzo, Begov Merorim, Eloheinu Ehod, Emet Malkeinu Efesu Lato, Kahatu B'Torato, V'yadata Hayom V'hashivota, Elevamecha. Ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, v'shamayim b'mal, v'al haaretz v'tachat eino. Vakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch li'olam ha'ed v'ne'ema haya Adonai lamelech al kol ha'aretz v'yom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo This week we observed the following yard sites: Noah Fetter, Lil's husband, father of Marvin and David; Max Kahn, relative of Helga Thorne; Norton Kaplan, husband of Grace, brother to Pauline, Jean, and Sam; Rebecca Cantor, mother of Julia Cantor Kaplan; Etta Angel Kaplan, daughter of Henry and Charlotte Angel; Edith Krupman, Ed Gallen's sister; Isidore Kuntz, father of Morris, grandfather of Richard and Linda; George Lewin, relative of Milford Schneiderman; Florence Rosenstein Moll, Natalie Schneiderman's mother; Esther Friedman, Dave Freeman's wife; Robbie and Bruce's mother, related to the Brodoffs; Annie Gross, wife of Isaac; Diane Shadow's maternal grandmother; Judith Rubin, wife of Stan, Nancy Neufeld's mother; Frances Fish Tompkins, daughter of JT and Charlotte, sister of Jacqueline Fish, Pauline Kaplan's cousin; Esther Uslin, Mark's mother; Harold Dutch Miller, Mark Miller's father; Joseph Rothenberg, Joan Lerner's uncle; Esther Sackerman, Maxine's sister; Elaine Skoll, wife of Barrett, mother of Rhonda and Diane; Sharon Coleman Weed, High's wife, Sarah and Adam's mother; Irvin Levine, father of Jean and brother of Milton; Benson Gellin, Ed's brother; Louis Maury Greenstein, Irving's uncle, brother of Harry; Bernard Levine, Ethel Levine's son, Mo's brother, Regina's uncle; Lena Silverstein, wife of Abraham, Fred's mother; Judge Fred Kaplan, Ed Island's brother-in-law; Harry Fallon, Edith's husband, Eva Perez Hart, Alice Herbert's mother, Maury's great aunt, Richard Wheel, wife of Daphne, father of Melinda and Benjamin. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us always, and may they all rest in peace.
Amen.
Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 294. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, the Alma, Divrach, Yeruteh, Yamlik, Malchuteh, B'chaye Chod, V'yomei Chod, U'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Bizman Kariv, B'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevarach, Le'olam, L'omei Almaya, Yishbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Kucha, B'rithu, Le'elam, Yikol, Birchata, B'shirata, Tushbachata, V'nechamata, Ta'amiram, V'yalmav, Amen. Yehei Shlama, Rabba, Mim Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, V'yimrumav, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen.
Amen.
All right, friends, just a couple of quick announcements before we close out our service. This week, Topol passed away. You know him from that travesty of a musical, Fiddler on the Roof. And the only reason I call it a travesty is that if you've read Shalom Aleichem's actual book, Tevye de Milchiger, this is not what Shalom Aleichem wrote. It was a much darker story. And there's a brilliant Yiddish film that came out of Warsaw right before World War II called Tevye de Milchiger, which remains close to the Shalom Aleichem story. If you watch it, be prepared. Tevye is not a jovial little guy who runs around singing. He is not. Services tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We have a guest, Darshan. We have Seth Weisberg, who's going to be here, and he'll be giving the talk. And then Sunday morning at 9 a.m. But you got to make sure you turn the clocks ahead tomorrow night, or else you're going to be late for the 9 a.m. service. You'll be here at 10 a.m. and there won't be anybody at services because they'll be over by then. So tomorrow night, make sure before you go to bed to turn the clocks ahead. I know. I hate saying that. I just caught up from the last time we did that. So, and then there's no deep dive on Monday night. I'll be down at City Hall giving the invocation to the City Council meeting. We're going to have please save the date. You'll be getting more information on this. April 6th, Thursday. That's when we're going to have our second Pesach Seder, and that's going to be here at the shul. April 6th, Thursday, and details to follow. And the raffle is coming up, so please make sure that if you're selling the tickets, sell, and if you're not, then buy the tickets. So it's a successful raffle. And one thing, on Tuesday night, there is a Board of Trustees meeting at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. And so a bunch of stuff going on. And Pesach. I warned you, you ignored me. I warned you again, you ignored me. You laughed at me even. And now it's almost right upon us. And all I have to say is, I told you so. No, but Pesach is right on the course. Speaking of Pesach, at the back of the chapel, and then what's going to be in the office, this is a piece of writing, several pieces of writing. It's a book of essays, a book of insights for Passover. It comes from an organization named Hadar, and it is located in New York City, and it is a very good adult yeshiva. Takes all kinds of Jews, from secular Jews all the way up through Orthodox Jews. I study with them. I've taken several classes online with them, and they do really, really great work. And so this is their Pesach booklet for this year. And so if you're by the synagogue, pick up one. I got enough of them. They were free because I support them through. I just support them. So this is Hadar. It's really good, and it'll help you make your Seder better, make your Pesach more meaningful. So, did I miss any meetings or anything, Judy?
No.
Nope, got it all.
I
Any
need to
squire went
correct
tonight?
This I don't know. This I don't know.
The email that went out to the board members today said 7 o'clock, but it is 6.
6 o'clock. If you come at 7, you're gonna miss it. The meeting. There won't be any meeting.
That's part of it.
And then we'll have to stay here and start all over for you. So, and we don't want to do that on a Tuesday night. All right, let's close out with Adon Olam on page 321. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'etz Nasa B'chepsato Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'Acharei Ichlot HaKol Levado Imloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hoveh Vehu Yeh B'Tifara Vehu Echad V'Ein Sheni Laham Shilo Lahachbira B'li Heshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'Hamisra Vehu Eli V'Chai Goali V'Tzur Hebli B'Yehitzahara Vehu Nisi Umanosli Menat Chosi B'Yom Ekra B'Yahado Avki Bruchi B'Eti Shan B'Yahira B'Bruchi B'Yati Adonai Li V'Lo Yira. All right, looks like we have some people on the intertubes saying hello to us. And let's see this. Joyce Yaffe, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Joyce. ML Glazer and Herman. There they are. Wish all a good Shabbat. Thank you. And the same to you. There's Mom. Shabbat Shalom to all from Rabbi's mom and Cliff. There they are. Thanks, Mom and Cliff. From snowy Pennsylvania. Aha, see, you got the weather. Wishing all a peaceful weekend and a great week ahead. Thanks, Mom and Cliff. And stay warm. And Joyce Yaffe, thank you, Kathleen, from wet California. It is rainy season in California. And so, all right, friends, lots going on, lots coming up. Hope to see you here for as much as you can. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and please be careful out there.
Amen. Good work as always. A little anecdote.
You got a little